So we'll pick up. We're not going to reread that story, but we'll start again where that story ended because he was going to move into another story of Jacob and Esau. No matter what stories you read in the Bible, no matter how many characters these ancient storytellers introduced into the drama, there is one thing you and I must always bear in mind. They all take place within the mind of the individual man. All the characters live in the mind of the individual man. As you read the story, make it fit the pattern of self. So I don't know if I had read that line last time, but there's Neville literally telling you that you're allowed to interpret the story however you wish. Know that your consciousness is the only reality. Then know what you want to be. Then assume the feeling of being that which you want to be, and remain faithful to your assumption, living and acting on your conviction. Always make it fit that pattern. Our third interpretation is the story of Isaac and his two sons, Esau and Jacob. The picture is drawn of a blind man being deceived by his second son into giving him the blessing which belonged to his first son. The story stresses the point that the deception was accomplished through the sense of touch. And Isaac said unto Jacob, Come near. I pray thee that I may feel thee, my son, whether thou be my very son Esau or not. And Jacob went near unto Isaac his father, and felt him. And it came to pass, as soon as Isaac had made an end of blessing Jacob, and Jacob was yet scarce gone from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from hunting. This story can be very helpful if you will reenact it now. Again, bear in mind that all characters of the Bible are personifications of abstract ideas and must be fulfilled in the individual man. You are the blind father and both sons. Isaac is old and blind, and sensing the approach of death, calls his first son Esau a rough, hairy boy, and sends him into the woods that he may bring in some venison. The second son, Jacob, a smooth-skinned boy, overheard the request of his father, desiring the birthright of his brother. Jacob, the smooth-skinned son, slaughtered one of his father's flock and skinned it. Then, dressed in the hairy skins of the kid he had slaughtered, he came through subtly and betrayed his father into believing that he was Esau. The father said, Come close, my son, that I may feel you. I cannot see, but come that I may feel. Note the stress that is placed upon feeling in this story. He came close, and the father said to him, The voice is Jacob's voice, but the hands are the hands of Esau. And feeling this roughness, the reality of the son Esau, he pronounced the blessing and gave it to Jacob. You are told in the story that as Isaac pronounced the blessing and Jacob had scarcely gone out from his presence, that his brother Esau came in from his hunting. This is an important verse. Do not become distressed in our practical approach to it, for as you sit here, you too are Isaac. This room in which you are seated is your present Esau. Esau is the rough or sensibly known world, known by reason of your bodily organs. All of your senses bear witness to the fact that you are here in this room, or if you're watching this at home, or if you're in your car listening to this, or wherever you are, your current sense of the world is your Esau. Everything tells you you are here, but perhaps you do not want to be here. Esau is also your current life circumstances, what your current reality is showing you. You can apply this toward any objective. The room in which you are seated at any time, the environment in which you are placed, this is your rough or sensibly known world or son, which is personified in the story as Esau. What you would like in place of what you have or are is your smooth-skinned state, or Jacob, the supplanter. Jacob is your desire, what you want to experience instead. That is Jacob. Smooth-skinned because it's not yet real. You do not send your visible world hunting, as so many people do, by denial. By saying it does not exist, you make it all the more real. This is one of these sections where I feel like Neville's trying to explain something super important that just has yet to really connect with me, which is removing unwanted. And he will always say things like lack of attention, um, removing your attention, and instead placing your attention upon whatever state you prefer, upon this Jacob state in your mind. So it's like an indifference instead of a pushing, if that makes sense. But my mind has always been kind of a pushing denial mind, and that will just sort of keep the thing going, according to what Neville has said. But so let me read this again. You do not send your visible world hunting. In other words, removing your current set of circumstances by trying to push it away and deny it. By saying it does not exist, you make it all the more real. Instead, you simply remove your attention from the region of sensation, which at this moment is the room round about you, and you concentrate your attention on that which you want to put in its place, that which you want to make real. In concentrating on your objective, the secret is to bring it here. You must make elsewhere here, and then now. Imagine that your objective is so close that you can feel it. Suppose at this very moment I want a piano here in this room. To see a piano in my mind's eye existing elsewhere does not do it. But to visualize it in this room as though it were here, and to put my mental hand upon the piano and to feel it solidly real, is to take that subjective state personified as my second son Jacob and bring it so close that I can feel it. The lecture we had done, I think it was the state of vision, is about using your imaginal senses when it comes to your imaginal acts, and how you can pick any sense and use that to really move into this preferred reality. Isaac is called a blind man. You are blind because you do not see your objective with your bodily organs. You cannot see it with your objective senses. In other words, to use what the common phrase in this in current manifesting community, there is no evidence in the 3D, is what a lot of people would say. So there's no evidence yet in the 3D. There's no movement. There's no proof. There's no fact out in the world that what you want to be true, what you are wanting to claim is true, what you have claimed is true. If you have felt as real, there is currently no evidence of it. You are blind because you do not see your objective with your bodily organs. You cannot see it with your objective senses. You only perceive it with your mind, but you bring it so close that you can feel it as though it were solidly real now. When this is done, and you lose yourself in its reality, and feel it to be real, open your eyes. When you open your eyes, what happens? The room that you had shut out but a moment ago returns from the hunt. You no sooner gave the blessing, or felt the imaginary state to be real, than the objective world, which seemingly was unreal, returns. It does not speak to you with words as recorded of Esau, but the very room round about you tells by its presence that you have been self-deceived. It tells you that when you lost yourself in contemplation, feeling that you are now what you wanted to be, feeling that you now possess what you desire to possess, that you are simply deceiving self. Look at this room. It denies that you are elsewhere. If you know the law, you now say, even though your brother came through subtly and betrayed me and took your birthright, I gave him your blessing, and I cannot retract. I was going to clarify, but Neville's about to clarify. In other words, you remain faithful to this subjective reality, and you do not take back from it the power of birth. You gave it the right of birth, and it is going to become objective within this world of yours. There is no room in this limited space of yours for two things to occupy the same space at the same time. By making the subjective real, it resurrects itself within your world. Take the idea that you want to embody and assume that you are already it. Lose yourself in feeling this assumption is solidly real. As you give it this sense of reality, you have given it the blessing, which belongs to the objective world. And you do not have to aid its birth any more than you have to aid the birth of a child or a seed you plant in the ground. The seed you plant grows unaided by a man, for it contains within itself all the power and the plans necessary for self-expression. You can this night reenact the drama of Isaac blessing his second son and see what happens in the immediate future in your world. Your present environment vanishes, all the circumstances of life change, and make way for the coming of that to which you have given your life. As you walk, knowing that you are what you want it to be, you objectify it without the assistance of another. And in this, as Neville uses the example so many times, planting this seed, that's why I've got the little sprout lamp. And recently, because I was given a very nice gift that I got last night, I put a sticker of David on it. But Neville gives a great reminder here that, Esau, your current exterior world, is going to initially deny your claim. But you always have to remind yourself the blessing was given. You moved into that new state, into that new reality, and it will replace your current exterior world. It will happen. Having that faith, walking in that faith, is for most people who find the law the biggest thing. It's just the biggest thing. If you have not developed that yet, or if there's just things you want where you overall know the law to be true, it works, but there's a few things in your life where you have doubts, you really want to see a more obvious unfolding, you really want the evidence as soon as possible. That's okay, because it's really just an opportunity to keep developing that faith. And I would say the thing that always helps you in those moments is to go back to scenes that you enjoy, that really connect you with this state you want to experience, and dwell in them as long as possible until they feel really real. You have no excuse to not take 5 or 10 minutes to do that. Wherever you are, whatever you're doing right now, you don't have to close your eyes. You can daydream. Everybody freaking daydreams, So you can move back into that state right now. If something happened today that stressed you out, and maybe it was related to your unfolding, maybe it's something totally different, but now it's got you frustrated about the things you want. I've experienced this many times. Stop doing that. Send your world hunting and focus back on having the experience, being the person you want to be right now, and feeling it real right now. The fourth story for tonight is taken from the last of the books attributed to Moses. If you need proof that Moses did not write it, read the story carefully. It is found in the 34th chapter of the book of Deuteronomy. Ask any priest or rabbi who is the author of this book, and they will tell you that Moses wrote it. In the 34th chapter of Deuteronomy, you will read of a man writing his own obituary. That is, Moses wrote this chapter. A man may sit down and write what he would like to have placed upon his tombstone, but here is a man who writes his own obituary. And then he dies, and so completely rubs himself out that he defies posterity to find where he has buried himself. So Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of the Lord. And he buried him in a valley in the land of Moab, over against Beth-peor. But no man knoweth of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eye was not dim, nor his natural force abated. You must this night, not tomorrow, learn the technique of writing your own obituary, and so completely die to what you are, that no man in this world can tell you where you buried the old man. If you are now ill and you become well, and I know you by reason of the fact that you are ill, where can you point and tell me you buried the sick one? To make this more contemporary, look up, I think I have it on YouTube already, or just read the lecture yourself, I Remember When. In other words, the old man, the state that is not now existent, the state that you buried, this Moses state would be the thing you don't want anymore. you would bury that old state, forget it completely. It is now dead. And then you move into Joshua, who is the one who inherited Jericho. Neville clarifies a lot on Moses in a couple other lectures. I don't know how much he's going to clarify on it tonight, but basically, Moses was allowed to see Jericho, but not to move into Jericho, even though he had been carrying everybody. He had been leading them through the desert for however many years it was. And the reason why Moses was not allowed to inherit Jericho is because he doubted the Lord once. So he was an imperfect state of mind. He was still he did not have the faith of a mustard seed. He was not complete in this new consciousness. He was not the inheritor of Jericho. He was not the one to receive the manifestation. There was something in his mind that was still apart from this new state of consciousness. So to try to give like a sort of practical example, let's pick money. Let's say you want a much more sizable income than you have now, but there is still too much lingering doubt about like one specific bill you get every month. Like let's say it's your insurance bill. You're so worried about the insurance bill going up and how that might jeopardize the amount of money you would have to put into savings and to other investments and things like that. And in your new state of consciousness, where you have this new larger income, that state of worry is just not present. And that has to be eliminated from your mind before you totally move into this new state of consciousness and experience the manifestation of increased income. So that version of you that has all the other thoughts lined up right, except it keeps worrying about the insurance bill, that's Moses. And that has to die so that you can then become Joshua, who doesn't care about the insurance bill, knows it's always paid because he has this bigger income now. And then you inherit Jericho, which is your manifestation. Let's say it's for a relationship. You want to be married. You want a committed, loyal, exclusive marriage. You want it to just be you and them. But you still have thoughts of what if they cheat. Well, that obviously can't exist in your final manifestation. So if you have all the other thoughts about who they are and how they treat you and who you are in this relationship and how this marriage works for you and for them and what it's like and what it feels like, you have all that nailed, but you still keep having these little nagging thoughts about, oh, they might cheat. You got to get rid of that. That has to die. To continue with the Jericho metaphor, after they inherited Jericho, they devote everything in Jericho to God, which means to burn it or kill it and burn it, literally. But so they kill and burn everything except the devoted things, the things God wants to keep, the things that are going to remain the same in the new state as they were before. However, a person named Asher, whose name literally means trouble, steals some of the devoted things. In other words, takes some of the things that you want in your new life and contaminates them with your current jeopardizing thoughts, puts trouble onto the things you want to keep. What had to happen to Asher in order for them to remain in Jericho, in order for God to continue supporting Joshua and the Israelites? God literally told Joshua and the Israelites, look, someone stole some of my devoted things. Find out who it is and kill them and all their family, or I am not continuing to support you. And they found out it was Asher, and they stoned to death him, his wife, his kids, and his donkey. You have to literally blot out all the troubled thoughts in mind that are not in line with your new desired reality. Those things have to be eliminated. So whether it's Moses, this state of doubt, or Asher, these troubled thoughts, whatever sort of Doubts or worries are going to contaminate your new state of being, your new state of consciousness, have to be eliminated one way or another. Okay, you must this night, but let's go to our if you are impoverished. If you are impoverished and borrow from every friend you have, and then suddenly you roll in wealth, where did you bury the poor man? You so completely rub out poverty in your mind's eye that there is nothing in this world you can point to and claim, that is where I left it. A complete transformation of consciousness rubs out all evidence that anything other than this ever existed in the world. The most beautiful technique for the realizing of man's objective is given in the first verse of the 34th chapter of Deuteronomy. And Moses went up from the plains of Moab unto the mountain of Nebo. I don't know if I'm pronouncing any of this right. To the top of Pisgah that is over against Jericho. And the Lord showed him all the land of Gilead unto, I don't know if it's Dan or not. You read that verse and say, so what? But take a concordance and look up the words. The first word, Moses, means to draw out, to rescue, to lift out, to fetch. In other words, Moses is the personification of the power in man that can draw out of man that which he seeks. For everything comes from within, not from without. You draw from within yourself that which you now want to express as something objective to yourself. You are Moses coming out of the plains of Moab. The word Moab is a contraction of two Hebraic words, Mem and Ab, meaning mother, father. Your consciousness is the mother, father. There is no other cause in the world. Your I amness, your awareness, is this Moab or mother, father. You are always drawing something out of it. The next word is Nebo. In your concordance, Nebo is defined as a prophecy. A prophecy is something subjective. If I say so-and-so will be, it is an image in the mind. It is not yet a fact. We must wait and either prove or disprove this prophecy. In our language, Nebo is your wish, your desire. It is called a mountain because it is something that appears difficult to ascend and is therefore seemingly impossible of realization. A mountain is something bigger than you are. It towers over you. Nebo personifies that which you want to be in contrast to that which you are. The word Pisgah by definition is to contemplate. Jericho is a fragrant odor, and Gilead means the hills of witnesses. The last word is Dan the prophet. Now put them all together in a practical sense and see what the ancients try to tell us. As I stand here, having discovered that my consciousness is God, and that I can, by simply feeling that I am what I want to be, I transform myself into the likeness of that which I am assuming I am. That which I am assuming I am, I know now that I am all that it takes to scale this mountain. I define my objective. I do not call it Nebo, I call it my desire. Whatever I want, that is my Nebo. I don't know if it's Nebo or Nebo. Nebo, I don't know. That is my great mountain that I am going to scale. I now begin to contemplate it, for I shall climb to the peak of Pisgah. I must contemplate my objective in such a manner that I get the reaction that satisfies. If I do not get the reaction that pleases, then Jericho is not seen, for Jericho is a fragrant odor. Neville would often say that after you've done a deep imaginal act and felt it real, to sort of wear that feeling like a perfume. When I feel that I am what I want to be, I cannot suppress the joy that comes with that feeling. I must always contemplate my objective until I get the feeling of satisfaction personified as Jericho. Then I do nothing to make it visible in my world. For the hills of Gilead, meaning men, women, children, the whole vast world round about me, come bearing witness. They come to testify that I am what I have assumed myself to be, and am sustaining within myself. When my world conforms to my assumption, the prophecy is fulfilled. If I know now what I want to be, and assume that I am it, and walk as though I were, I become it, and becoming it I so completely die to my former concept of self, then I cannot point to any place in this world and say, this is where my former self is buried. I so completely died that I defy posterity to ever find where I buried my old self. There must be someone in this room who will so completely transform himself in this world, that his close immediate circle of friends will not recognize him. For 10 years, I was a dancer, dancing in Broadway shows, in vaudeville, nightclubs, and in Europe. There was a time in my life when I thought I could not live without certain friends in my world. I would spread a table every night after theater, and we would all dine well. I thought I could never live without them. Now I confess I could not live with them. We have nothing in common today. When we meet, we do not purposely walk on the opposite side of the street, but it's almost a cold meeting because we have nothing to discuss. I so die to that life that as I meet these people, they cannot even talk of the old times. Look at your life. If you have experiences, really, to do this practically, if you are so bold, go look at some pictures from 5 years ago, 10 years ago. Reconnect with the sense of self and the life you were living at that time. How much of that seems now to still be relatable to you? How much of yourself do you still recognize as being the same? How much of a Theseus ship experience are you having in terms of your life? If you can do that and see, oh wow, so much has changed, you can do that towards your future and say, well, then, these things are always changing. I don't even need to think ahead 5 years. I can see that I can make that 5 months. You can take that dramatic shift, that sense of, oh wow, I don't recognize that person anymore, and apply it towards this desired future self and make it immediate. Make it now when you imagine it. You are now this new person. You now have all these new experiences and this life that you want to live. There was another thing you had mentioned. Oh, I was going to say you can use this as an imaginal act. If there is someone who you is a friend or acquaintance who you don't see very much, and this has probably already happened to you, where someone you haven't seen in a while sees you and they're like, oh wow, like either you look so different, or oh wow, you look really great. Like they will comment in some way to indicate that something about you is dramatically different from how they remembered you. They might say like, oh wow, you don't do that anymore, like if it's a bad habit you lost, or oh wow, you're working there, like I always knew that would be the best thing for you, or something. Whatever those, you've had these experiences before, take them, emulate them, apply them to whatever you want now. It's the same stock advice that Neville gives all the time, but especially when it comes to like a positive change in your like behavior, personality, overall life circumstances. Do that, where you can see that this person is clearly almost shocked by how dramatically you are a new person now. There are people living today who are still living in that state, getting poorer and poorer. They always like to talk about the old times. They never buried that man at all. He is very much alive within their world. Moses was 120 years, a full, wonderful age, as 120 indicates. I was like, he's definitely going to go into, he was not actually 120. It's symbolic, and here we go. 1 plus 2 plus 0 equals 3, the numerical symbol of expression. He also said, I think an occupant or inmate, but it might be here, he equated 3 to resurrection. I am fully conscious of my expression. My eyes are undimmed, and the natural functions of my body are not abated. I am fully conscious of being what I do not want to be. But knowing this law by which a man transforms himself, I assume that I am... I scroll down a little bit. Knowing this law by which a man transforms himself, I assume that I am what I want to be, and walk in the assumption that it is done. In becoming it, the old man dies, and all that was related to that former concept of self dies with it. You cannot take any part of the old man into the new man. That's Moses and Asher. These things cannot remain in your new state of consciousness, your new experience of reality. I guarantee what's happening, especially in relationships, but it could definitely happen with anything, like where they start a relationship, it's going great, and it starts to fall off, is that there are things about the self, there are ways you think about yourself, insecurities, for lack of a better word, that are coming up again, and you're re-emphasizing them, and they're affecting the relationship. Or they do something, and you overreact to it, and jeopardize the relationship, got to manifest them back again. And that's only happening because the person is coming back before you are completely in this new state of consciousness. Or if it's a new person, you meet them before you're 100% there. But whenever that happens, just keep in mind that that's just part of your unfolding. You didn't do anything wrong. It's just more self-discovery that will enable you to move into better and better states and to really capture the state you want of that fulfilled relationship. Or when it comes to money, if you're still having little thoughts of lack, you may see a big increase in income or have a sudden windfall, but then extra bills show up, extra expenses come in to try and claw that money back, just because you haven't totally assumed this new state of abundance. And so it's just trying to keep you in the old reality because you haven't completely moved into the new consciousness. You've moved enough that you've now experienced it, but not enough to stay there and reside there. You cannot put new wine in old bottles or patches on old garments. Oh my God, what just happened? It's around here. It just scooted. Here it is. You cannot take any part of the old man into the new man. You cannot put new wine in old bottles or new patches on old garments. You must be a new being completely. As you assume that you are what you want to be, you do not need the assistance of another to make it so. Neither do you need the assistance of anyone to bury the old man for you. Let the dead bury the dead. Do not even look back. For no man, having put his hand to the plow, and then looking back, is fit for the kingdom of heaven. Do not ask yourself how this thing is going to be. It does not matter if your reason denies it. It does not matter if all the world round about you denies it. You do not have to bury the old. Let the dead bury the dead. You will so bury the past by remaining faithful to your new concept of self that you will defy the whole vast future to find where you buried it. To this day, no man in all of Israel has discovered the sepulchre of Moses. This is interesting advice from Neville because he's the revision guy. And I think in a lot of contemporary manifesting circles, the advice is often to revise, even when you know you're in an unfolding. I would say, though, what's going on there in a lot of cases is that you need the revision in order to help yourself move into the new state. So especially if it's like a relationship and there was an argument or a breakup or, something that was like you felt really screwed up the relationship, you're going to have to revise that. Or even, and I've seen this a lot, and, like you can be guilty of it. It doesn't have to just be a romantic relationship. You can be guilty of it in any aspect. We'll feature one little story at the end from occupant or inmate that demonstrates this in a work circumstance. The revision is helping you move into this new state. So whatever that thing was, it's still active in you. Whatever the topic of the argument was, whatever the reason for the argument was, whatever your feelings after the argument were, that's still going on, that's still active. And something that people will do also is they will take prior experiences from another relationship and transpose them onto the new relationship. And it may be totally unrelated relationships. I would say most commonly people take experiences they have with their parents and put them on all various other relationships in their life, and most notoriously primary partner relationships, whether that's romantic partner, business partner, best friend. You take some aspect of your parents, grandparents, your family, and put them on other relationships in your life in a good way, but then also sometimes in a negative way. So people can, I mean, I think the thing that's happening a lot is people make blocks about their romantic relationships based on traumatic experiences they had with their parents. This is a total error. It doesn't need to be done, but something that might help you experience the new state of consciousness of the desired like marriage is to revise things that happened 20 years before you even met the partner, because you just decided that, oh, they remind me of my mom or my dad or both, and then that automatically got put on them because you just didn't revise that old experience yet. So revision can still be useful, but it's useful because it's helping you delete those old man thoughts and experiences. It's just helping you move that out of your mind. Just get rid of that stuff. I mean, if you can assume the new state without ever doing a revision, Neville is right here saying that's ideal. And that's the goal anyway. That's all you're ever trying to do with revision anyway. These are the 4 stories I promise you tonight. You must apply them every day of your life. Even though the chair in which you are now seated seems hard and does not lend itself to meditation, you can, by imagination, make it the most comfortable chair in the world. Let me now define the technique as I want you to employ it. Here you go. Here's your exercise for tonight. I trust each one of you came here tonight with a clear picture of your desire. Do not say it is impossible. Do you want it? You do not have to use your moral code to realize it. It's altogether outside the reach of your code. This is honestly, I mean, there's a lot of reasons I love Neville and think he's great, but this is a big one. Because I really don't like when people who are discussing this topic want to transpose their individual morality onto the teachings and tell you that's a rule. Like, let go is a big one. It's a stupid one. I never had to let go in order to experience oxygen or water or the innumerable other things that I feel I need and yet have a great abundance of. So I really like that Neville does not impose morality upon use of the law, which is always an error. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. If it worked that way, you wouldn't be able to experience things you see as morally reprehensible. You would not know they exist. Whether you, not necessarily that you have gone through it or done it yourself, but you would not know about it. You would not know about it if it was not permitted. If it was not allowed, you wouldn't know about it. I mean, that's just how it is. Consciousness is the one and only reality. Therefore, we must form the object of our desire out of our own consciousness. People have a habit of slighting the importance of simple things, and the suggestion to create a state akin to sleep in order to aid you in assuming that which reason and your senses deny is one of the simple things you might slight. However, this simple formula for changing the future, which was discovered by the ancient teachers and given to us in the Bible, can be proved by all. The first step in changing the future is desire. That is, define your objective. Know definitely what you want. Second, construct an event which you believe would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire, not the moment after. An event which implies fulfillment of your desire. Something which will have the action of self predominant. The third step is to immobilize the physical body and induce a state akin to sleep. Get relaxed. That's all it means, get relaxed. Oh my God. I got scooted around. Immobilize the physical body and induce a state akin to sleep. Get super, super relaxed. Then mentally feel yourself right into the proposed action. Imagine all the while that you are actually performing the action here and now. You must participate in the imaginary action, not merely stand back and look on, but feel. that you are actually performing the action so that the imaginary sensation is real to you. It is always important to remember that the proposed action must be one which follows the fulfillment of your desire, one which implies fulfillment. Oh my God, this is this is literally the example I was thinking of. For example, suppose you desire promotion in office. Then being congratulated would be an event you would encounter following the fulfillment of your desire. Having selected this action as the one you will experience in imagination to imply promotion in office, immobilize your physical body and induce a state bordering on sleep, a drowsy state, but one in which you are still able to control the direction of your thoughts, a state in which you are attentive without effort. Then visualize your friend standing before you. Put your imaginary hand into his. Feel it to be solid and real, and carry on an imaginary conversation with him in harmony with the feeling of having been promoted. You do not visualize yourself at a distance, in point of space, and at a distant point of time, being congratulated on your good fortune. Instead, you make elsewhere here, and the future now. The difference between feeling yourself in action here and now and visualizing yourself in action as though you were on a motion picture screen is the difference between success and failure. Now, to my topic, my advice today of you make your own rules. We have identified here this is an arbitrary rule. Neville here is saying to make the experience first person through your eyes and not third person seeing yourself. In other words, be in that moment as you, as opposed to watching yourself do that. That is an arbitrary rule. Okay? You do not have to follow that. It is my preference to do first person. It's just how my mind tended to operate, and I took it on as an early assumption, but it's not necessarily true. And don't for a second believe that if you don't do it that way, you're not going to get it. Okay? If you've been visualizing, look at your life. If you have been visualizing yourself in third person and experiencing definite proof of those things you visualized in third person, this works for you. You don't have to do first person. If you have evidence that that works for you, keep doing it. Don't let Neville fuck you up. Okay? I mean, he is great, he is awesome, but this is not a requirement. He's saying it's a requirement. I'm telling you, it's not a requirement. And you're so allowed to make your own rules that you can right now be like, oh no, it's a requirement. You got to do that. You got to. That's fine, because honestly, me personally, that is how I tend to feel. I tend to think that I have got to do it first person. But it also helps me connect with the feeling of the thing being true. However, I can remember before I knew anything about the law, I would visualize things in third person and they would happen to me. And I mean personal things I really wanted. I would do third person visualizations of seeing me doing them and have it happen. I know that to be a fact. That has been my experience. That is what I was doing. I would always do back and forth, but that was part of my imaginal acts before I knew anything about Neville. So that's not necessarily true, and you only have to make it true for yourself if you want it to be. Here he's going to keep trying to make his point that you have to do it this way, but you don't. The difference will be appreciated if you now visualize yourself climbing a ladder. Then, with eyelids closed, imagine that a ladder is right in front of you and feel yourself actually climbing it. Experience has taught me to restrict the imaginary action which implies fulfillment of the desire, to condense the idea into a single act, and to reenact it over and over again until it has the feeling of reality. Otherwise, your attention will wander off along an associational track, and hosts of associated images will be presented to your attention, and in a few seconds, they will lead you hundreds of miles away from your objective in point of space, and years away in points of time. All right, he is calling me out here, because this happens to me all the time. But I can also sustain a much longer scene, totally improvised, in first person, and not have that happen. It just it's just control. It's just a muscle you build up in terms of your attention. If you decide to climb a particular flight of stairs because that is the likely event to follow the fulfillment of your desire, then you must restrict the action to climbing that particular flight of stairs. Should your attention wander off, bring it back to its task of climbing that flight of stairs, and keep on doing so until the imaginary action has all the solidity and distinctness of reality. The idea must be maintained in the mind without any sensible effort on your part. You must, with the minimum of effort, permeate the mind with the feeling of the wish fulfilled. Joseph Murphy talks about this too. He literally says the reason for failure is too much effort. He doesn't mean exterior world effort, though. That's not helping you get anywhere anyway. And he doesn't mean like overall too much mental effort. He means in the moment of imagination, it's too forceful. It's too... you're not letting yourself just flow into it. You're just overthinking it. And I have had this happen innumerable times when I'm doing a scene where I get distracted by some little detail because I didn't work it out in advance. And stupid details like the color of people's clothes. And then I get distracted by that and I put too much more. It just becomes the thing kind of falls apart, which is why Neville is suggesting to pick something as simple as possible. Drowsiness facilitates change because it favors attention without effort, but it must not be pushed to the state of sleep in which you no longer are able to control the movements of your attention, but a moderate degree of drowsiness in which you are still able to direct your thoughts. That liminal spot is really hard to stay in for very long because once you're just there, like on the border of it, you very quickly dip into utterly uncontrollable beginning of dream imagery. The more I pay attention to that movement in and out of these states, the more I see, oh man, you can just, boom, sink quickly into uncontrolled, totally unrelated imaginary experiences that have nothing to do with you. They're totally out of mind, out of this world, nothing to do with this world. And before you've fallen asleep. So finding that little sweet spot is its own kind of skill. However, it's not necessary. Again, that relaxed state is not necessary in order to imagine and have the thing express and manifest. A most effective way to embody a desire is to assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled and then, in a relaxed and drowsy state, repeat over and over again like a lullaby any short phrase which implies fulfillment of your desire, such as thank you, thank you, thank you, as though you addressed a higher power for having given you that which you desired. I know that when this course comes to an end on Friday, many of you here will be able to tell me you have realized your objectives. 2 weeks ago, I left the platform and went to the door to shake hands with the audience. I am safe in saying that at least 35 out of a class of 135 told me that which they desired when they joined this class they had already realized. This happened only 2 weeks ago. I did nothing to bring it to pass save to give them this technique of prayer. You need do nothing to bring it to pass save apply this technique of prayer. With your eyes closed and your physical body immobilized, induce a state akin to sleep and enter into the action as though you were an actor playing the part. Experience in imagination what you would experience in the flesh were you now in possession of your objective. Make elsewhere, here, and then, now. And the greater you, using a larger focus, will use all means, and call them good, which tend toward the production of that which you have assumed. You are relieved of all responsibility to make it so, because as you imagine and feel that it is so, your dimensionally larger self determines the means. Do not think for one moment that someone is going to be injured in order to make it so, or that someone is going to be disappointed. It is still not your concern. I must drive this home. Too many of us, schooled in different walks of life, are so concerned about the other. You ask, if I get what I want, will it not imply injury to another? There are ways you know not of, so do not be concerned. Close your eyes now. This is just Neville reassuring you that nobody's going to be hurt to bring you what you want in any way. People in unlovely states, states that you would even find morally objectionable, may be used in your unfolding. We've had some great examples of that on here so far. I don't think I did my favorite one, which is the Aida one. But there was a lady who needed a new roof. Her husband needed new shoes. She needed, I think it was a new sewing machine and either a typewriter or a tape recorder or both. Anyway, she wanted some new shit. The husband didn't have fucking shoes anymore. He needed new shoes, and they needed a new roof on the house. And her unfolding was that there was a theft, and she got enough insurance money to get all new shit. But the person in the state where they were a thief was employed. But just Neville's letting you know no one's going to be hurt. Like, no one's going to die so you can get this new job. Like, nobody's going to be, like, grievously physically injured or something to get you what you want. Like, that's not going to happen. It's all going to happen in accordance with an overall experience of harmony. Close your eyes now, because we're going to be in a long silence. Soon you'll become so lost in contemplation, feeling that you are what you want to be, that you will be totally unconscious of the fact that you are in this room with others. You will receive a shock when you open your eyes and discover we are here. It should be a shock when you open your eyes and discover that you are not actually that which a moment before you felt you were or you felt you possessed. Now we will go into the deep. So I don't know how long they use their silence period for. We're going to do it. Y'all going to do it by yourself after the stream. I'll go over it again after we do finish this up and then do a little bit of occupant or inmate. I need to remind you that you are now that which you have assumed that you are. This is after people have imagined, they, open their eyes. He says, I need not remind you that you are now that which you have assumed that you are. Do not discuss it with anyone, not even self. That's interesting. So it's like literally don't even think about it. It's done. Don't talk to yourself about it. You cannot take thought as to the how when you know that you are already. Practically, right now. Pick anything. Let's just pick a material object. I used the sofa example before. You can use, let's go with computer. Everybody's got a computer or a phone. How are you going to get your phone? How are you going to get a computer? And you're like, what? What do you mean? I already got a phone. I already got a computer. Yeah, you have to apply that to your desire. So if it's like the question is like, well, when are you going to get married? What do you mean? I'm already married. Whatever the desire is, I try to use the examples that I know a lot of people really, really like. Oh, when are you getting a job? I already got a job. You can't ask where something is or when something's going to be if you already have it. Okay? So that is how intensely you need to identify with the thing. According to Neville, you make your own rules, though. Your three-dimensional reasoning, which is very limited reasoning indeed, should not be brought into this drama. It does not know. What you have just felt to be true is true. Let no man tell you that you should not have it. What you feel that you have, you will have. And I promise you this much. After you have realized your objective, on reflection, you will have to admit that this conscious reasoning mind of yours could never have devised the way. You are that and have that which this very moment you appropriated. Do not discuss it. Do not look to someone for encouragement, because the thing might not come and has come. Go about your Father's business, doing everything normally, and let these things happen in your world. I mean, this is real faith here, And if you can succeed at doing that, especially in a lot of so-called bigger things, uh, delete any thoughts that you don't have adequate faith to manifest absolutely anything. Because if you've already done that for just one thing, you know. Okay, I'm gonna just do a little bit of occupant or inmate, and then we're gonna wrap up.